Welcome to Read This, Author's Corner. I am your host, Alice Maria, and I am so excited to have with me today author J.A. Faulkerson. He is a poet, an author. Welcome, Jeff. Welcome, Jeff. It's so great to have you here on Read This. You have such a tremendous body of work. I can't wait to get into it and discuss it. But before we get into your craft, your talent, can you tell the audience just a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Jeffrey J.A. Faulkerson. My friends call me Jeff, but my pen name is J.A. Faulkerson. So I'm a Northern Virginia-based writer, author, poet, and screenwriter. And been writing, probably as long as I can remember. I got the bug back in high school and, years later, I'm 57 now, so I never stopped. But I was born and raised in a little town called Kingsport, Tennessee, which is in Upper East Tennessee, up in the right-hand corner of the state. And I graduated from Dobbins-Benton High School, went to the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, thought I was going to major in journalism just because I always had a love for writing, and ended up majoring in social work. So I'm a trained social worker. That's what I do for my full-time career. And specifically, I work with fathers. So I'm a fatherhood practitioner. So I do workshops, do educational forums, just all geared toward fatherhood. I've been married close to 32 years to my college sweetheart, and I'm the father to a 21-year-old boy.
Oh, excellent, excellent. That you have a long-term connection with all of these things, right?
Yes,
your
ma'am.
writing, your marriage, your things that you have going on. And I can't wait to get into talking about your work because you cover, this whole fatherhood conversation. But we're going to start off a little bit about your poetry. Okay. And then we're going to move into your more serious work. And then we're going to move into your fiction because you cover it all. Yes. So we want the audience to get to know a little bit about the entirety of who you are as an author and just a talented person. So,
well, one thing I want to add to the conversation, I do appreciate you giving me this opportunity to share this information on your platform because, I'm an independent author, poet, screenwriter, and, anytime we get exposure like this, for, stuff that we do on the creative side is very important. So kudos to you for, just all you do to, help us spread the word about what we do.
Well, thank you so very much. It's the overwhelming positive feedback that I've gotten from authors like yourself that really keeps me motivated and keeps me knowing that there's a place for me. There are people that need me. There are people that want me. So it is, it makes me feel very fulfilled to know that I'm fulfilling this role.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So you have a book of poetry. So talk to me a little bit about where did the poet in you come from?
Well, you know what? I mean, I always knew I had, I'll call it some gifting, with poetry. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say I'm the greatest poet or anything like that. I'm still a newbie at the craft. But I attended a conference down in Durham, North Carolina. It was the Griot and Gray Owl Black Writers Conference. And I attended that back in 2023. And I got there and the room was full of just Black writers, poets, and then they had 15 spoken word artists that were going to take the stage to deliver their poetry for a grand prize, I think $1,000. So I was an audience member, so I was sitting there just minding my own business, and Eric, he came up to me and asked me to be one of the judges, and so we judged 15 contestants in the spoken word, the spoken word slam. And so I'm sitting there listening to all these spoken word artists, and just the variations in their style of delivery, the type of poems that they were reading. Some, sounded more like raps. Some, were put to the beat of music. But they performed, and it got me thinking, like, okay, why am I not writing poetry? So it was a 3-day conference. So I went back to my room, and I have a little red journal that I purchased from Barnes and Noble. So I pulled that out, and had my pen in my hand, and I just started scribbling, just poetry, a rhyming poem. And I think that first poem that I wrote was titled Checkmate. And that's one of the poems that I want to share with you today. But it was called Checkmate. And then from there, I just continued to write poetry until I had enough poems to where I could put into a book. So that was the first book I published, poetry collection that I published was titled The Wise Men Say. Mm-hmm. And I followed that up with a second poetry collection called March of the Compassionate Neighbors. So I have two poetry collections, that I'm going to be pulling from later on during this conversation.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. So now we'll move into a little bit of your more serious work. You have a book called Real Men Raise Champions. Mm-hmm. And does that come out of your work, working with your counseling work, or did the book come first?
Well, I would say the book came out of my counseling work. Okay. Or my work as a workshop facilitator, because it's more about, the experiences that you have with the men that are in your group. I was certified as a parent educator way back when. I couldn't even tell you when, but I was certified in this program called Active Parenting. And it was for both mother and father parent education that we provided to fathers who wanted to, parents who wanted to, have some additional tools when they're working with their children. And I was employed with a school system at the time, and we really wanted to do some community work where we work with parents and enhance their skills. And because, we were seeing a lot of problems out of children, when they came to school. And I've always been someone who tells people that children's first teachers are their parents. And before they even turn 5 years old, the parents are shaping those children and preparing those children for entry into elementary school or kindergarten, Head Start, or whatever you want to call it. So I got the certification, but recently I, was able to go down to the National Fatherhood Summit, which was down in Atlanta, Georgia, last year. And I went there and I was able to just rub shoulders with a number of different fatherhood practitioners. And this is an event that was sponsored by the National Fatherhood Initiative. Mm. So I went there. My employer, they funded the travel, and just went there, just to, really partake of all the information that was offered. We attended workshops. We heard from Kenneth Braswell, who's I think he's he's a CEO of the National Fatherhood Initiative, which is based in Washington, D.C. And probably over maybe close to 1,000 people were there at the Omni Hotel. But I came back, got a chance to bring back a lot of great information to the place that I work, and I'm a fatherhood practitioner, here in Northern Virginia, and the whole goal is to help fathers strengthen their connections with their children. So in terms of Real Men Raise Champions, that came between my getting certified as an active parenting today facilitator to what I'm doing now as a fatherhood practitioner up here in Northern Virginia.
Could you explain a little bit about what it means to be a fatherhood practitioner, if you don't mind, just so the audience can have a full understanding?
I mean, it's a big responsibility, but the main thing is that we're training up men, fathers and father figures, to really stand, with the children's mothers to ensure that the children, they're successful, and success is not about, making a lot of money or anything like that. I mean, success is just being able to take care of the things that have been given to you, be good stewards of the things that have been given to you. That could be if you have a job, you make sure you show up on the job. And me, I always, point fathers to something that I call the 4 pillars of prosperity. And that's one of the things that, is highlighted in Real Men Raise Champions, is that, we as fathers, we are charged to help children become great nurturers, great learners, great workers, and great leaders. When we talk about nurturing, we want them to be reliable friends first and foremost. So it's all about relationship building, so you become a friend to someone else, but then you move into other areas where you are being a present spouse, because those formal relationships that you form help you become a spouse to someone else, because you're caring about someone other than yourself. So you have this sense of selflessness versus selfishness, always thinking about yourself. When you talk about learner, you want to raise kids who are lifelong learners. I mean, they can't go through life thinking that, when I graduate from high school or college, learning ends. What we want them to be able to do is be able to learn things every day, learn lessons every day. And then when you talk about a worker, people are losing their job left and right these days, especially if you work for the federal government. But at the same time, it's like we all have to have an entrepreneurial mindset, meaning that, if no one's going to hire us, why can't we just create a job for ourselves? Mm-hmm. So that's important. And then when we talk about leader, it goes back to being selfless and caring about people, more so than yourself, and then developing strategies and approaches that you can implement that will help improve the lives of, other people.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that you said that triggered other thoughts in my mind, because in my 20s, I did a lot of personal development work. And one of the things, I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, like, when you're green, you're growing. When you ripe, you rot. So learning is all about staying green and growing, because the world.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I love that.
The world doesn't stop,
Yeah,
So I always remember that when you're green, you're growing. When you ripe, you rot.
Wow.
And so that aspect of keep growing and keep developing is so, so, so important. And as I was saying that point, I forgot the other one. But it'll probably come back.
That's a great point. What you just shared, that's a great point.
Yeah, because you have so many good lessons in what you shared, which is so important in relationship building. I think parents depend too much on schools to teach everything.
That's right.
there's just some things that actually gets transferred a lot better and a lot more effectively if they come from the love that falls within that household.
That's right. Well, you look at, like the cuts to diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and schools being penalized for offering, these type of programs, and especially as they receive federal funds, but it's a wake up call, I'm Black, you're Black, or African American, however we want to say it. And we see that, we are receiving the brunt of the, brunt of the cuts or feeling the effects, of that. But my point is that we as parents, if we're children's first teachers, as Black parents, then it's important that we give them a sense of their history, expose them to content on television that really kind of talks about the Black experience here in America.
And books.
Yeah,
even
books.
more than
Yeah, read books,
television.
and that's
Books.
one of the reasons. That's the main reason where I write. What I write is because my poetry. A lot of my poems are, based in current events, but also based in historical events. Things like that. So
It's very important. But there's two things that I think about when I think about education and think about and understand that one, it definitely has to be the parent and the community.
yes,
The community's
yes,
responsibility is that when you think about education was never really created for Blacks or whites to actually learn. It was always just created so we could actually fall in line better,
conditioning, the conditioning.
So it was always formed as a way of, I say, herding cattle, right?
Yeah.
You're educating the cattle enough so you could herd them more efficiently.
That's right. That's right.
So now, if we look at that aspect of it, and then you add people of color into that mix, which they were never supposed to be the part of the cattle that was being herded anyway. So now we're asking people that didn't really want us in the herd to begin with to now change the herd to fit us. And I'm like, I can't anymore. Once you learn, you got to say, okay, this was never meant for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was, creating something like the universities, the HBCUs, and the different things that were created in the past that helped us learn and grow in ways that, in a lot of ways, we've become stagnated in. There are people that have rised above it and do great things, but I love talking to people like you that most of my authors are educators in some form or fashion that is going outside of what is taught, because we know what is taught is really a herding mechanism. So the fact that you are teaching something that is beneficial on a deeper level means a tremendous amount more than the things that the world as it is giving us cereal, right? Not real nutritious substance.
That's good.
So to talk to people that are doing the work to give us food, give us the nutrition, the sustenance that we need to grow and sustain us, that's a totally different argument. And
you preaching right now.
Excited.
You preaching right now.
I'm sorry?
So you preaching right now.
I am so excited working with people like yourself. I just feel like it's the season now that people will see the work that you've already been doing because they'll be open for where else can I learn stuff? It's not being taught here. We've been looking so long for it to be
Mm-hmm.
taught here, and it's not being taught here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we keep pushing and pushing and hoping and praying, and it's not happening. Now they're saying, no, we ain't going to do it. So now we have no choice but to
Mm-hmm.
turn, pivot, and look and say, look, he's been doing this for like 30 years. He got a whole repertoire that's going to help me and my children grow and improve the quality of our life, and not from a hurting mentality, but from that critical thinking.
Like the solidarity, I think is it's important that we get back to the solidarity that we had back in the 50s and 60s, or even before that, because there was a sense of urgency, then, that things had to change, and the system had to work with us. You will recognize my history, but see, Black history is American history.
Exactly.
And Black history is not just slavery.
Exactly.
It's, understanding that the continent that you pulled me from, we were kings and queens.
Right.
You hear what I'm saying? So it's having, and it's really, as a writer, it's really incumbent, as writers, it's incumbent on us to tell those stories, tell those narratives, or share those narratives, just so people will know, especially our children. Because they're the ones who have to pass it on to the next generation.
Most definitely. Most definitely. So if we're talking about real men raised champions, what is it that you feel the audience would take away from that particular book?
Well, that book, was really designed to encourage men to unleash their inner coach. COACH. So that's coach, and it's an acronym. And the first C is for consider. So consider the factors that hinder your child's ability to be successful. And then we move into O, operate. Operate as your child's first teacher. Then we move into the A, advocate. Advocate for educational success and vocational opportunity. Then we move into the next C, collaborate. So collaborate with other fathers to support the development of healthy relationships. And then the H, honor. Honor your God and your wife. So that's really what I'm encouraging fathers and father figures to do, is unleash your inner coach, because that's what real men do. We're not... a lot of times we are called upon to set the temperature in the room, be thermostats, not thermometers, and it's important that we get back to that, and we really wear that as a badge of honor, that responsibility or whatever, or fulfill that role, because, but we got to do it from a righteous standpoint. We can't do it from a standpoint because, leadership is being corrupted, in terms of what it looks like. Because you have some leaders that get in positions of power and they lead irresponsibly. And that's in all communities. It's even within the Black community, where you see a lot of irresponsible leadership. But at the same time, it's like what we got to do is we got to judge people by the fruit that they bear.
Yeah. Simon Sinek says, "Leaders eat last."
That's it. That's true. That's true.
You take care of your people. Leaders eat last. And then I think it was Stephen Covey says that leadership is not a title. It is how you operate. You don't need a title to be a leader.
That's right.
People will follow you because you lead well.
Yes.
So, so thank you for that. Let's move and talk a little bit about your fiction. Let's talk some fun. So, How did you get into writing fiction?
Well, fiction, I'm a Trekkie and I love Star Wars. And so I love just good story, and I think, the first story short story that I ever wrote was called Midnight. And I wrote this my freshman year of high school at Dobbins Bender High School in Kingsport, Tennessee. And, after we finished our stories, our projects, our teacher, Miss Pridemore, I think it was Miss Pridemore, but it wasn't Miss Pridemore. What was her name? I can't remember her name, but our teacher, she had us read, what we wrote, to the class. So I stood up and I read my story, and after I read it, after I finished, or once I finished, just seeing the expressions on people's face, they really enjoyed it. And that really put the bug in me, like, man, okay. I gotta do this. So I decided to, be a reporter, I was a reporter for our school newspaper. When I got to college, I went to the University of Tennessee as a student athlete. And my career ended as an athlete 2 years in, just because I found out I had arthritis in my hip. Mm-hmm. But I had a lot of success as a high school athlete. I was a state champion in the long jump. And that was back in 1986. I was a state champion in the state of Tennessee in the long jump. But I got to college, and after I found out I couldn't run anymore, I became a regular student and decided to, be a reporter with a sports reporter with the newspaper. And I wrote more than just sports. I also wrote columns, op-eds, so I was a columnist, so I wrote, and that really is what laid the foundation for me, getting into writing. And then the fiction piece, it goes back to the story Midnight that I wrote, but also, just reading, a lot of like Ernest Hemingway, James Baldwin, number of different authors, even Richard Wright, Native Son, just reading those stories and just really saying, man, okay, can I write as good as they,
So
and then,
can you just give us a taste of what the storyline is for your fiction? So how would you draw somebody in with a short commercial about your fiction?
Oh, okay. Well, Rahim is a story that I wrote. Is kind of like a sci-fi political drama. And it's basically the story of my main character. He basically gets pulled into a secret society called the Rahim Reparations Management Syndicate. And it's been around since the beginning of time. And so he's a reporter. His name is Frazier, Jason Frazier, Jonathan Frazier. So Jonathan Frazier, he's my main character. He gets pulled into the secret society. And what they don't realize is that there's an alien race called the Satyrians that live on Saturn, and they want to invade Earth. But they were created at the beginning of time because I posit that, God allowed Satan to create his creatures while God created humanity. And so these creatures, they do the bidding of Satan, and they live on Saturn. They want to invade the Earth, but there's a buffer that is protecting the Earth. And the buffer is Black people, because I posit that Black people were the first humans. Adam and Eve were Black, not white, not any other color, because they were created from the black sands of Africa. Because humanity, if you read Genesis, it talks about how he created man from the sands of the earth. Sand has different colors, different textures. But so the black sands of Africa, is where mankind was created. And then I talk about electromagnetic energy spread across the world to create other human beings, and all that. And that's sci-fi, so you're just using your imagination. Yeah. But Jason, he gets pulled in, and it's a story of, him really adjusting to this new reality that he's been exposed to. But he becomes an Adinkrahini agent. And these agents, they have something called the Eden Stone. And the Eden Stone is a chunk of rock that was discovered by these explorers. And it's from the original Garden of Eden. But when it comes in contact with black skin, it gives them, it's kind of like the Energizer Bunny. You put a battery in him and he keeps going and going and going. Well, the Eden Stone, if you graft it into if it comes in contact with black skin or black body, that black person has superpowers. So he can phase through walls. He can fly through the air like Superman, and all that stuff. So if you read the book, that's what you're going to get. You're going to see us, doing some phenomenal things.
Oh, wow. I can actually, like, as you're talking about it as a novel, I could actually see it also as a graphic novel.
Oh, yeah.
I can see that being a really cool graphic novel as well, especially in this environment where graphic novels are so important.
And I have 2 more books that I haven't written yet, so I owe people 2 additional books in that series, and also my black, the fear of actually it's Adinkrahini, Fear of a Black Planet. And then black is, the subtitle is The Bear on Our Backs. So, and I wrote that under a pen name, and the pen name is J. Allen.
Okay.
J. Allen Creative is, what I wrote that under. And it's another book. I mean, pretty much the same premise, you're fighting against the powers that be. And that also, still talking about the fiction, the black book, it led to me writing a 125-page screenplay, which I titled Reconstruction, Power Cell. And this is a project that I'm really proud of, because one day I do want to see, because I think as writers, I mean, it's good to, have your stuff in a book, but to be able to see something that you've written acted out by actors and see it on the big screen, that's really what I'm shooting for right now, So yeah.
Would you like to share a little bit about the screenplay? Not give it all away, but just like what? Why are you so proud of it? Let's take it from that standpoint.
Well, the log line is, like 2 young business tycoons, black business tycoons, they have to convince a black. Pretty much a older black inventor. He's a conservative. His conservative-minded thinking had to convince him not to sell his energy conversion device to an oil and gas company that is committed to it. Well, they're connected to an organization that is committed to resurrecting the Confederate South.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So that log line, that's really what this story is about.
Right.
And Jason Black, because in Black, I mean, he's a track athlete who gets caught up in a situation like Trayvon Martin. But he ends up living to be able to tell his story and confront the security guard. He was a track athlete at the University of Tennessee. He's out running. He gets pulled over, confronted by a security guard, and he ends up, he always carries a switchblade knife, a sling blade knife in his pocket. So he's just out jogging, getting ready for the season. And Roscoe, he's a security guard. He jumps out, confronts him and says there was a report of a disturbance in the neighborhood, and were you him? And then he says, I know you were him. And then he whispers in his ear and says, there's going to be one less nigger tonight, like that. So Jason, he already has his sling blade knife out. So he stabs him in his thigh and then runs off, and he's a fugitive. So Reconstruction occurs like 5-6 years after, Jason resolves the situation, with the law, because he was a fugitive, and he he did what he had to do in terms of appearing before the court, things like that. But then he has mentors. Kelvin Cochran, he owns that Cochran.
I don't want you. I don't want you to give it all away.
I know. I'm just excited. I'm so excited about this story.
I'll let you in on my little secret, because I'm like, I'm taking all of this because as things progress and things happen, I would love to be that person that's sticking out a little taster. Yeah, you're putting that out here.
Yeah.
Here's a little snippet from our conversation about it. So I'm super excited. But as we're winding this conversation down, you said you wanted to share a poem with us?
Yes.
The floor is yours.
All right. So can I share 2 poems with you?
Yes, you can.
One from each book?
Sure.
I'm going to share, the first poem I'm going to share with you is from my poetry collection, The Wise Men Say. And it's a poem I titled Black Insurrection. All right, here we go. So we all saw what happened on 1/6/21. The Red Hats stormed the Capitol, believing their candidate had won. They came to D.C. to stop the steal, but the desecration of memorials couldn't believe it was real. I immediately started wondering if this had happened in 95, when Black people came to Washington to keep Dr. King's dream alive. He saw a nation, Black and white, walking hand in hand, marching to the rhythms of a different band. There definitely would have been bloodshed, this I know. White people, pins and needles, anticipating our violent blow. But that blow never came, probably never will. We're a peaceful, loving people, envied for our perseverance, skill. The Black insurrection is already in motion, gathering place in HQDC, mobilizing for a promotion. Marches and sit-ins, they're still needed today, but now that the chess game is level, we respond in nonviolent ways. Go to college, graduate with a degree, secure gainful employment, become a different pedigree. Social entrepreneurship is the thing Black people must master. Anything less, inviting disaster. Nothing wrong with owning businesses that make a profit, but for us, the Black diaspora, more of us must rise above it. Each one teach one, we all getting paid. Equal justice protection, no longer delayed. No sorrow for the Red Hats, hate and division they wrong. They ignore our real grievances, their friendship we saw. They ban our books, label our history CRT, but losers they all are. Sit-ins united, bright destiny. So that's Black Insurrection. March of the Compassionate Neighbor. And the one I'm going to share here, let's see. It's called Charge to the Compassionate Coalition. Because I make this distinction between a compassionate neighbor and also a conquering oppressor. So you'll kind of see what I'm talking about here. And this is more like a prose poem. So it's more, actually it's kind of lengthy, but when I was judging that spoken word competition, I heard some lengthy prose poems too. So this is called Charge to the Compassionate Coalition. Dr. King has been admonishing us to come together as one since the 1950s. Come together as brothers or die together as fools, he once said. But here we are 74 years after he made his first rousing speech, trying to determine if we will allow complacency to replace compassion. For me, the answer is obvious. I choose to be compassionate, not complacent. But so many others have chosen the latter, thinking complacency will heal the racial divide, prevent the nation's marginalized groups from finally experiencing the rights of full U.S. citizenship. I blame established religions for this frantic march toward complacency. They have hitched their carts to an ideology that appeals more to their selfishness, less to their selflessness. The Christian church is the worst. They have captive audiences every Sunday morning and once during the week on Wednesdays, and they still choose not to denounce a presidential candidate who once joked about people looking the other way after he touches women's vaginas without their consent. What's worse, some denominations within the Christian church believe he was sent by God to do God's bidding. But truth be told, the things he has said, the actions he has taken, have nothing to do with what God wants and are more about everything selfishly unrighteous that the presidential candidate wants. But this problem is bigger than one man. It has a lot to do with how we interact with each other. We don't, at least not well. We're more attached to our smartphones and tablets than ever before, and while we acquire a tremendous amount of information from them, we pick and choose these coals of information that coincide more perfectly with our individual worldviews. We must ask ourselves, why are we choosing the blackened coals over the golden nuggets? Have our minds become so depraved that we can no longer sense the urgency of now? In 2008, U.S. voters elected the first black male president. In 2020, U.S. voters elected the first black female vice president. Both candidates represented the Democratic Party, which has a history of not being too kind to persons of color. Let's reflect on these moments, how we felt seeing two descendants of an enslaved, oppressed, and marginalized group rising to become leaders of the free world as Democrats. At this nation's core is a desire to become a more perfect union. In the words of Black motorist Rodney King, we should all just do our part to get along with others. But for that to happen, for us to get along, we must drown out, not silence, the voices spewing messages of hatred and division rather than love and unity. We must hold the ordained purveyors of love and truth to account, letting them know an unenlightened segment of their leadership and congregations are sleeping at the wheel, allowing the purveyors of hatred and lies to ferment a more imperfect union. We should be wary of leaders who condone the banning of books that enhance the critical thinking skills of children and adults. We should be wary of leaders who prevent refugees from legitimately pursuing asylum pathways to U.S. citizenship. Lastly, we should be wary of leaders who enact laws to regulate women's bodies, denying women opportunities to decide what they want to do with their bodies in consultation with trained medical professionals. Embrace your wokeness, compassionate coalition. It's not a bad thing. And being woke or enlightened is nothing new. It has always been there, this feeling of being aware of what is morally right and good for everyone, not just a select few. In November 2024, vote for candidates who privately and publicly stand on the side of moral enlightenment, unconditional love, equal justice, and inconvenient truth. Do this, and our transformation into a more perfect union will resume, as our words and deeds will show that more of us are guided by the love and compassion in our hearts.
Thank you. As we're about to wrap up, is there something that you'd like to share that you didn't get to say during our conversation?
Well, I just embarked on a new venture. I'm actually on Substack. And I have a newsletter that I produce, or I contribute to, and it's called Writer's Block.
Okay.
with J.A. Faulkerson. And it's a way for me to, really communicate with an audience. It's more about, really putting my books out there, talking about the motivation for writing A Real Man Raised Champions, or writing Rahim and Black, and, The Thug Whisperer, which is a short story that I wrote, or even True Bill, which is a Black Wall Street story, because what I try to do with my fiction and my nonfiction is I try to, focus the attention on things that we've experienced, or past things, like the Black Wall Street, the Red Summer, and stuff like that, right, to give people that motivation to go back and research it themselves. But I feel like putting characters in situations, where they are living through those travesties or those tough times, is a way to, get people to really think and get them to want to kind of revisit it from a fictional standpoint, not, not in reality, because you want to, really win their hearts and their minds. And I feel as a writer, that's what I'm trying to do. Is like, if you're the most racist individual on the planet, I'm still not going to stop trying to win your heart and also win your mind, because those are my targets. Those are my targets.
I like that sentiment. I like that. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time and your talent. And thank you so much for sharing it with me and the audience.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, my pleasure.
And the excellent questions.
I would like to thank my special guest, J.A. Faulkerson, for being on Read This today and sharing his works. Please go out and pick up a copy of his books. He has so much to share. This has been Read This, Author's Corner. I am your host, Alice Maria. Keep reading, keep growing, and stay empowered.